Hey, do you find yourself coming up with great song ideas, but then you get stuck right here?
Loser.
The dreaded 8-bar loop. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can take this, your little loop, and turn it into this, a complete, full, amazing song without actually having to add anything to what you already have. Hey, I'm Regan Ram with Orpheus Audio Academy, helping you make better music and grow a fan base online. And today we're looking at how you can actually finish more songs, finish those songs. And the way you do it is by breaking out of these 8-bar loops. This is something I struggled with for a long time. I know a lot of people in my audience have said the same thing. But here's the good news. If you have an 8-bar loop, you already have a finished song, believe it or not, and I'm gonna prove it in this video. So what do I mean by this? What do I mean if you have an 8-bar loop, you already have a finished song? Well, if you implement the 12 different arrangement techniques I'm gonna share with you in this video, then you can see that you can easily take any 8-bar loop and turn it into a full song, starting with tip number 1, which is to simply arrange your 8-bar loop over the course of a full track. So what I mean is go into your markers, into your DAW, and create your different sections, your verses, your choruses, your bridge, etc. And then take your 8-bar loop and simply spread it over this range. Now the key here is you don't want to have all of your instruments playing at the same time. So each section, take out a different part or add a different part from your 8-bar loop. And maybe only your final chorus, the climax of your song, has all of the elements that you came up with in your 8-bar loop. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Now, before I dive into these different arrangement techniques, if you're wanting to finish more music faster and produce radio quality music from home using budget equipment and the gear you already have, then be sure to grab my free checklist in the description below or go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/mixing checklist. This will walk you through a proven system for mixing your music step by step, and it will also give you a bunch of amazing tips so you can finish more music faster and get more music released. Again, in the description below, or go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/mixing checklist. So first I'll do is create the arrangement up here with the markers. So I went in and decided, where my intro is going to be. My first verse, this would be verse 2. My choruses would be bridge. Looks like I got a final verse here, little verse 3, and then a final chorus. So once we have that arrangement to decide on, right, you can just have any arrangement you want, right? You don't have to follow this arrangement, but for whatever arrangement you want, you can decide on that. So now we're just going to decide where we want everything to go. Real quick, I have this drum pattern here that is the same as the chorus. This doesn't have the hi-hats. So we're going to put that in the verses here. And maybe to make this a little bit more interesting, we're going to skip the first verse. We'll have no drums. And here's a little drum fill, so we can put that there. And so we'll extend this out for that verse. Same thing for this verse. And maybe the latter half of the bridge here. We got two different basses here, so maybe we'll only have the double bass during the choruses, and maybe we'll just have this more acid bass during the verses, and maybe we'll have no bass in the first verse as well. So we're gonna be trying to build energy over time here. So here's the verse. Now we got this pad here, so we can decide where we want the pad to go. So maybe we'll skip the pad in the first couple verses, maybe even the first chorus, and maybe the pad will be here for the bridge, so we can hear the pads there. It's gonna be the pads time to shine there here during the verse. Then we have this little extra little stabby kind of pluck sound. So we already have a lot of new stuff coming on in this chorus, so maybe we'll keep that smaller. And maybe we'll only have this for the final chorus to kind of make it a little more distinct, a little more interesting. Then we got this pluck here, so we'll have that be just the intro and the verse maybe. So we probably need a little bit more going on in this first verse. So I guess we'll go ahead and bring in the bass as well. It'll just be really filtered. And then we have this lead here, so maybe we don't want this. So let's see, right there. So maybe we'll have it in the second chorus and the final chorus, like so. We got this little bell, so maybe we'll just bring that in. So So just like that, we no longer have our 8-bar loop, we have a full song here, right? Now, once you have your whole track arranged, it's gonna sound very boring, right? If it's just that 8-bar loop spread out, it's gonna be kind of monotonous, kind of boring. So now we're gonna implement 11 other arrangement techniques to actually make it interesting. And so arrangement technique number 2 is to simply filter in or out the intro and outro of your song. This might be more of a technique for electronic music, but that's the kind of music I'm familiar with and I make myself. But this can also work with any other genre too, maybe without filtering, but thinking of the frequency content and not having as much frequency content in the intro and the outro. So let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like when we filter the intro and the outro of the song. That simply means we just cut off the high frequencies, and then as the song builds, we then allow those high frequencies back in. So we can go ahead and do that here. A tool I like to use here is just one knob filter by Waves, but you can just pull up any EQ plugin to filter this or any other filter plugin. So we already have the filter here. So I'm gonna put it pretty low, and we're gonna have it filter all the way up until the chorus here. I'm gonna use my automation curve tool to curve it like so. So it's gonna increase more slowly in the beginning and then get faster at the end there. And then of course we want to filter that outro and something like that. Now, if you found this video helpful so far, go ahead and hit that like button, as that really helps my channel to grow and spread to more music producers. Now, arrangement technique number 3 is filter automation. So we've already filtered in the intro and the outro, but let's keep this going. Let's filter other parts of our song. We can add filters opening and closing throughout the song. I especially like to do this during the verses. Might have those a little bit more filtered, but then when we get to the choruses, we have the full frequency spectrum playing. This way it feels bigger, more powerful, and you can really hear those driving choruses. Now, arrangement technique number 4 is to add drum fills between your different sections, right? If you listen to any of your favorite songs, they probably have some really cool drum fills, but how do you create these easily if you are not a drummer yourself? I'll show you how to do that right now. And I did a full review of this plugin in the past. It's really amazing. All of UJam's beatmaker plugins are amazing, and you can get 20% off this and all UJam plugins when you use my code OAA-20 at checkout. Also have this link below. This is nice because it has a bunch of loops already built into it. That's how I created the first drum fill. So we can find some other drum fills with this, or you can just program it in yourself. For the sake of speed, let's find a drum fill here. Sounds kind of cool. So I'm just going to drag this in, drop the MIDI in. So let me go ahead and pull that back and go ahead and reuse this, because out of the verse into the chorus we're doing that. So maybe out of the choruses we want to use this. Now, arrangement technique number 5 is to actually cut sections of your instruments between your sections as well. This can really help with your transition. So what do I mean by this? I mean, rather than like removing an instrument for, say your whole verse, just the last, maybe quarter note, maybe half note right before your verse transitions into your chorus, maybe you remove part of the bass or part of your chords or something. So it gets a little bit smaller, it dips in energy right before boom, exploding into your chorus. So your verse could be building, 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 it drops, and then boom. And that contrast is really interesting, and that's how you can really drive home those choruses as well. Arrangement technique number 6. I'm probably gonna run out of fingers, so I probably should stop doing this. Change octaves over time. So if you have an instrument playing a certain pattern, maybe during your choruses, you bump it up an octave, and that increases the energy as well. So that's another way. A lot of these arrangement ideas, these are also just going to help you create better songs overall, add more energy to your choruses, for example. So that's something we can do with our 8-bar loop that we have expanded to make it sound a little bit different. Rather than having to create a whole new part, we can just bump up the octave of a certain instrument. Bump these up an octave. That's cool. So there's maybe more we want to do there, right? Some mod or add extra stuff, effects, reverb, delay, something to make it sound a little different. But that's pretty nice there. Now we can hear a clear transition there. All right, arrangement technique number 7 is to add sidechain compression. What this means is you can have one instrument trigger the compressor on a different instrument. For example, if you put a compressor on your bass and that compressor is reacting to your kick drum, then the compressor on the bass can compress the bass, duck the volume, turn down the volume of the bass every time the kick drum comes in. And this can create a nice pumping effect. And it also can help the bass cut through, or help the kick drum cut through a dense, bassy mix. So therefore you can still hear the bass really well. You can still hear the kick really well because the bass is turning down when the kick comes in. But you don't just have to use it in this situation, right? This is kind of the most common one you hear, but we can add sidechain compression to a bunch of our tracks to help with that bounciness, to help make it sound a little bit more interesting, a little bit more danceable, right? Depending on your genre of music, this may or may not work for you, but here I'll show you how you can use this in your track to make your 8-bar loop turned full song sound a lot more interesting. So sidechain compression, right? This is big in electronic music. So we can add this to our bass, just add a simple, we can use this with a compressor. I have a full video on sidechain compression that you can check out, and I'll link that in the description below. But I'm just going to use one knob pumper here really easily to duck the volume of our bass. And we'll do like 6. And I might want to do maybe the ARP as well. And we might want to automate this. So it's only like during the choruses, so it's really bouncy. So one knob pumper. So I'm going to use my marquee tool here and just pull it up during the chorus section. So let's see, I might have it be down like this. Maybe during the final build up here, we have it. And same thing with the bass here. So we might want to have it be pretty low in the verses versus the chorus. A lot different. And then we got the ARP over here. We'll have it no pump and then pump. Nice. All right, arrangement tip number 8 is to add transitional effects between your different sections. So this is another transition technique, but these go a long way to making your track sound a lot more professional and interesting. And you really notice them if they're not there, but you want to add different whooshes, that whoosh thing, splashes, impacts, uprisers, downrisers, etc. between the different sections of your songs. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So I actually have a free SYNTHWAVE sample pack that has some effects in it, and as well as a bunch of drum samples. So if you want to grab this, you can get this as well. This is completely free. So that'd be a nice one. So let's add in an audio track. So that would be good for a like riser. Okay. Maybe use that somewhere else. I kind of like the idea of using the static during the bridge here as a build-up. You can turn that into a build-up. So we're going to keep these for every thing, or every chorus. Will that come up here? And then what are we doing with this? Maybe alternate. All right, these are our effects. Arrangement technique number 9, especially if you're using synths, is to automate your synthesizers as well. So we already talked about automating the filter cutoff, but we can automate different parameters inside your synths as well. We can automate the envelope, for example. We can automate the ADSR, and we can automate different effects on their synth as well. And so this is another way to add interest to your song as things are changing over time. The more things that can change over the time, the more dynamic your track is, the more interesting it is going to be, within reason, right? You can definitely overdo it, but in this case of using this 8-bar loop, so it's basically the same thing all the way throughout the whole song, we want to lean more heavily on these different arrangement techniques. So let's see how we can do this now. So you might want to automate the sustain here, put it back to about where it was, some more up here for the chorus. So just another way to add more dynamics, just changes and texture. Right, because this verse 2 is really kind of boring because there's nothing changing over time. Now, arrangement technique number 10 is to add in some ear candy. So we already talked about those transitional effects, but we can add in different sound effects, little interesting motifs or instruments here and there, sprinkle those throughout the song for some ear candy. But I think I might want to put this on a send, because I might want to add other effects to this later to make it really gnarly. So we could add more modulation effects to that, but we'll keep it how it is for now. So this is just kind of like adding in little ear candy. So we're doing the ear candy section here now, I guess. Extra percussion, basically. And so we'll have that there. Arrangement technique number 11 is now to add some modulation effects, auto panning or tremolo, things like this. So you can get even more movement going on, this time across the stereo field versus the frequency spectrum, which is what we've mostly been doing so far. So adding some different panning, you can do panning automation here as well. It's kind of a bonus tip I didn't mention, but adding some panning automation, modulation effects, changing these over time, having things develop. This is another way to add some cool interest to your song, and I'll show you how we do it in this track right here. I tried some tremolo on the arps here, so we can hear these arps. Now the tremolo. So you can hear I'm really bouncing between the left and the right speakers there, or headphones. I could probably hear that better. But I think we can automate this as well. So I like to automate a lot of effects and not leave them static. Again, it adds a sense of movement. Now, before I get to my final tip, and this is a big one that you're really going to love, be sure to grab my free mixing checklist in the description below if you haven't already. This will show you a proven step-by-step system for producing radio quality professional music from home using budget equipment. And it will also give you a bunch of techniques, tips and techniques to finish more music and to create music faster. So this is a really awesome guide. I definitely recommend you get it. It's completely free. Again, in the description below, you can grab that. All right, arrangement tip number 12 is to add some effects to your mix bus. This could be some kind of remix effect, some kind of stutter effect, or a filter or something to add interest to your song as a whole. All right, here's the mix bus, and we're gonna throw on that remix effect. All right, automate, touch. I heard some of the reverb or effects there because those aren't bused to the mix bus. So I might even want to like keep the drums. What if I kept the drums out of it? And maybe we have this go to like this thing. This is the Valhalla, so we could even like automate the Valhalla and mix decreases. What else we got? That's kind of cool. So it's a little something different. That's it. That's where I wanted it. So, all right, you don't need to include stuff like this, but it's kind of cute. Kind of cute. All right, this, right, again, might be better on a submix because maybe we want to leave the bells out of this. Like, what if we left the leads out of this? So you can see now we have taken our boring 8-bar loop and turned it into a full song now. And right, we could probably tweak this, make that sound a little bit better, but you can hear already it sounds a whole lot better. So let's listen to it now. So as you heard, big difference. It sounds amazing. Obviously, we can still make it more interesting. Right now you have this full song. Maybe you want to go back and you do change up your chords. So it's not the same thing all the way through, or you change up your bass, or you change up something here and there. But this just goes to show you don't have to write different chord progressions for every song. You don't have to do much more. If you have your 8-bar loop, you already have a finished song. And from there, it's just a matter of, what can you do to enhance it? So I hope this has been encouraging for you. And like I said, I have a bonus tip I want to share with you as well. And that is to start your songs off differently every time you create your song. So if you find yourself always writing songs the same way, maybe you always start with the chords, you always start with the beat or something, that can get stale and it can get you stuck and get you in a rut. So to spark your creativity, it's better to have maybe some different go-to ways of starting a song. So if you find yourself stuck, you now start writing your song a different way. Maybe start with a melody first, or you find just a cool sound to start with first. In fact, if you want 9 different cool ways to start writing a song, then check out my video on the screen right now. And this will walk you through, like I said, 9 different ways to start writing a song so you can get that creativity flowing and maybe you don't actually get stuck in the 8-bar loop to begin with. I hope you found this helpful. Go ahead and hit that like button again. That really goes a long way towards helping me if you found this video helpful. Subscribe as well if you want more content like this, and have an awesome day.